you to share some of the things you're learning and have learned and your experience. You've been working with this peer support team for about 4 years now across North Carolina. And the things that we're experiencing in Burlington are just the same as High Point and every other community. So share with us, if you will, some of the things that you feel like might be helpful for us to keep in mind and as we go through this experience together.
Absolutely, Greg. Thank you for asking me to be a part of this today. This is, I do want to say, being in emergency services for over 20 years now, this is very important and is much more appreciated than management or administration realizes. So with that, one of the things that we've all been trying to become accustomed to is the Zoom and the Teams. And I didn't even really know how to spell Teams before COVID, and now it seems like I'm on Teams every day or Zoom. So with all this that has come about, and it come about very, very quickly. It was without warning. It turned around and it changed everybody's lives. So when we are out, or even in the families, in the faces of your families, we're seeing the strength where people are becoming very strong, digging down and finding what helps them drive to get through such events like this, and what they're utilizing to overcome real life challenges. These are throwing challenges at us that this pandemic is that nobody in our lifetime has experienced since 1918. So such things as, we'll go through a few of them that we may have as an individual gone through, or know somebody, or just some that are out there, such as I have to go pick up groceries for my family and I see a shopper not social distancing. And I do want to go back real quick. Kim Morris, who is a part of our North Carolina support team, she is a licensed social worker. She did the class for us yesterday and provided a lot of this information, so I want to give her credit on that. But some of the things with coronavirus, we're looking at stress, loss, and then the resilience part of that. So with the stress part, I just mentioned we go to the grocery store and we see somebody that's not social distancing. I have worked 6 days straight. I'm exhausted and still can't sleep. I'm staying at the station because I'm scared to expose my family. I just learned my first responder brother in New York City died of coronavirus. I'm drinking more than usual. We lost a patient today on shift. Cause of death is uncertain. The daycare keeps calling about my child's behavior. A family member is sick back home and I can't go see them. My 401k is in the tank. My spouse got laid off. My career's over. I'm injured and I cannot perform my duties. My wife's a teacher. She's at home with our toddler and we're pregnant with twins and I'm working extended long hours. Our plans have been canceled, the vacation we have been planning for all year. Our daughter's senior year in high school, no prom, no graduation, my niece's wedding. When facing all these types of stressors, some of these probably have affected somebody in the group or somebody that you know. Find that all of you in your own unique ways are flexible, adaptable, and very resourceful, which is being resilient, coming upon how we overcome those things. So looking at the loss part of this, or the trauma, where we all know we're looking at going into, or we are going as a state into the phase one of opening the state back up. So I haven't been able to work from home. Actually, my schedule has not doubled, but become very, very more busy with this being in emergency services. However, I know a lot that are working from home. At first, may have been, it was a good thing, get to stay at home. Now I know I've talked, it's caused hardships with families, having to be together 24/7, not having that break of coming home. Or on the flip side of that, when we have to go back to work, there's one here. I'm gonna read you of a mother. The craziest thing, for the first few weeks after I came back, every morning my 8-year-old would stop me at the door, hang on to my leg, and wouldn't let me leave. That's the first thing I think about as when we coming back to work. Our children are used to us being there for the last 2 months, and then all of a sudden they don't understand why we're leaving again. So understanding how to be resilient with that, and how to manage that as a family and as a person through coping skills. Another side to that, our aggravation or our anger or frustrations being together all so much. For example, sometimes my dad gets so touchy, like we were getting ready to go to the beach and we were putting stuff in the car, and then he just got so bossy and mean. He yelled at me and I yelled at him because it wasn't fair, and then we ended up not going. But usually he's really nice. So what the point in all that is, what are these examples of? And it's a reaction to some type of trauma or loss, some type of trigger within ourselves that has caused that reaction. And that's what we're dealing with today, going through this pandemic and moving into the future. It's not like a hurricane or a tornado to where it comes through and it's gone. It's something that has been very, very lengthy in time. When something very stressful or traumatic happens to us as an adult, and as a child, it's very different. And it's hard for us to understand how to comfort a child or how to work with a child. But when something very stressful or traumatic happens to an adult, a child, or a family, it is very common for that individual or family to become reactive to those things, such as what we was just looking through there. So we want to, the stress, loss, and resilience, put that into our daily lives and how we react and how we handle things, not just in situations like this, but in the future. Increase our awareness of stress and its effect on how it affects us and others. Strengthen our resilience, and connect, grow, and have fun. So I know we only have a couple more minutes, so I'm gonna wrap up here. But stress happens, and it's normal, and it's needed. And I think in society today, more so than not, we think stress is a bad thing. But stress is supposed to happen. It's normal, and it's a needed thing. That's how our bodies are wired to respond to stress. We all react differently, but with resilience and tools that are available and having a plan, we can mitigate those stress injuries. Stress sometimes gets a bad name, but we are wired to handle it. We can handle it. We just need to have those tools and those understandings. And stress is a natural defense to danger. It protects us or cues us in when we're in uncomfortable situations. The stress response is fight, flight, or freeze. So are we going to fight the situation we're in? Are we going to try and run from it? Or are we going to freeze within the situation? When we are monitoring and or managing our stress, we are good. We're good to go. Too much stress can start to impact the body in many ways, which we're all accustomed to, but bodies need a reset to recover. And the goal of all this is to find what works for you and putting that in place, which could be physical resources, physical activity. There are mental resources or social resources. And that's what's been one of the biggest issues with this pandemic, is losing that social concept. Spiritual resources, and then our family or our work family as well. So again, and wrapping this up, while we may experience stress and loss uniquely and all differently, resilience is a set of individual skills, but together we are most resilient. So again, resilience is rational. We are going to stay strong and get through this together. So what makes you resilient is you, yourself, your family, your team, and your community. So with that, awareness in addition with action equals resilience. So those are, and focusing on open and effective communication, collaboration, and problem solving. a development of a shared sense of meaning. So what the meaning is of what you're going through, and then a means of support for such. So with that, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what I try to gather for the few minutes there, and I hope it was able to reside with some folks.
Very good, Perry. Thank you for sharing that. You know, there's a couple important messages there that Perry shared, and one of those is simply finding what works for you. That stress is natural, it's normal. We all cope with it differently, so we each have to find what works for us, and that's a different recipe for each person to find what that is. But one of the things that does help us through this is working together and pulling together. And that's really the whole effort under this team program, because together, everyone achieves more. And so as we think about our team with City of Burlington and Burlington City staff, we work together. And as we work together, everyone achieves more. Together, everyone achieves more. And so seeking those resources that will help you, but together we are more resilient than we are if we're independent. When you think about those resources, your list of resources might look different than your coworkers or your neighbors or even another family member. It's important to remember that the city does provide the Employee Assistance Program, and that's a resource that's very helpful to many people. And so as you're going through these difficult challenges, keep that in mind as well as a resource that's available. And asking for help and looking for those ways that can reduce stress and can help with the number of changes that we're all going through in the current world that we live in. It's also important to think about what we started out with today. What are some good things that are happening? It's very easy to have so many negative things happening. So think about the good things that are happening and not lose sight of that as well. Okay. All right. So Perry, thank you so much for